Welcome everybody to my long-term review of the Apple AirPods. These are my first generation Apple AirPods. I've had them since the summer of 2017 when I purchased them alongside my iPhone 10. So, for those who want the short and sweet answer, are the AirPods worth the price of $219 prior to taxes? For the short and simple answer, they are, in my personal humble opinion. I feel like over the last 3 years, I have not yet experienced any major hiccups with these products. I will be going into a little bit of detail of what I've experienced over the last 3 years with these AirPods. And I will also touch upon a couple of things I don't like about them. But to begin with what I like about them, to start, the battery life. Generally, when I purchased my AirPods back in 2017, the AirPods themselves would get about 3 hours of usage. After the last 3 years of ownership, I would like to report that the first generation AirPods give about 2 to about 2.5 hours of usage. Considering that they are 3 years old, losing about half an hour of general usage isn't too bad. For the charging case itself, this is where I've noticed most of my battery loss is in the charging case. So what happens is that when I first purchased the AirPods, I'd say I get about a week's worth of battery on the case. After 3 years, I get about 3 to 4 days out of my charging case. Is this really a big deal? Not really, because everybody charges all their electronics before heading out the next day. When you go to bed, you put your iPhone on charge, you put your Galaxy phone on charge, you put your Apple Watch on charge, you put your iPad on charge. If you're a student, you put your MacBook on charge. All it becomes is one more thing you need to put on charge. However, if this is something that bugs you, the fact that you have to charge your AirPods every second day, third day, you can honestly buy a replacement case from Apple at about $100. Is it worth it? I guess, it becomes a nice little upgrade to the AirPods themselves, but honestly, I wouldn't purchase a charging case for $100 because the only added benefit you are getting is the wireless charging feature, and the case lasts a week. I'm pretty sure that you can charge it on the go. Many people who have iPhones tend to have chargers in their car, on themselves, backpack, and purse. So, my next item I'd like to touch upon is connectivity. So, with connectivity, there's two things I like to talk about. First is Bluetooth range. For the Bluetooth range, I say it's pretty decent. You get about 15 feet of, you get about 15 feet before the actual AirPods start to cut out. Once they start cutting out, then you start hearing a little bit of, distortion in the audio. But that's more limitations of the Bluetooth chip that's in it, which is called the Bluetooth 4.2 chip. It doesn't really have much to do with the aging of the AirPods, as the chip was like that from the get-go. The second connectivity thing I'd like to touch upon is the iCloud connectivity. One of my personal favorite features of all Apple products is their ecosystem, and the AirPods actually are no exclusion to that. So, once they are paired, they automatically pair with all your Apple products that are under the same Apple ID. For example, if you're using them with your iPhone and you want to use them with your iPad, you don't have to go into the settings, you don't have to manually add them. As long as your iPad is under the same Apple ID, you'll actually be able to use your AirPods on your iPad, no questions asked. It just starts working. Now, for a little bit more of a touchy issue, sound quality. So, for music quality, I personally am not an audiophile. To me, they sound good, as I'm not one that seeks for bass. I'm not one looking for amazing sound quality, separation of the instruments, vocals, and so on. So it's hard for me to judge it based on the sound quality alone. For music quality alone. But for those who want high-end audio headphones, they tend to lean more to like Audio Technica, Bose, and those other high-end brands that create headphones. But for phone calls, generally they're amazing. I've never had anybody tell me that they can't understand what I'm saying while I'm on the phone with them or have any distortion while I'm talking to people. So, the next one is fit. For me, I'm one of those people that have no problem with AirPods fitting in my ears or any Apple headphones in general. I personally don't like the rubber wingtips that are on other headphones, as they do tend to get a little dirty, a little nasty over usage. With the AirPods, you do end up getting a little bit of earwax in the crevice right here, but as long as you keep your ears clean, they tend to stay pretty clean. For regular wear and tear, and the AirPods themselves, as you can see, are in a pretty good shape. They don't really take a beating because they're in the case themselves. However, this case, because it is a glossy, shiny finish, it does show scratches over time, and it kind of does lose its appeal. From putting it in a backpack to putting it in jeans to putting it in your purse, it will tend to take a little bit of a beating in that sense, but other than that, the hinge opens just perfectly fine. Everything else works great with these. Now, the cons. I would like to include that the scratching is one of the cons I find with these headphones, as the scratching of the case does end up kind of taking away from the prettiness of the AirPods as they become more dull. You can get cases, silicone cases from Spigen, Incipio, and other online Amazon providers, but I'm not one for cases for my accessories, for my iPhone and my iPad Pro. Yes, I'll keep them in a case. I will never rock an iPhone without a case, but for my accessories, I tend not to rock any cases on them. So cons. To begin, since they're the first generation, they don't have any IP certifications for sweat, water, or dust resistance. So that's something you really got to keep an eye out when you're keeping these. Another negative point I've noticed with these AirPods is that, as I mentioned earlier, the Apple ecosystem, where you're able to connect all your Apple products to your AirPods via your iCloud, right? However, this can be a little bit of a drawback as well. I know this is going to sound like a first world problem and all, but when you're using your iPad, for example, but now you want to use your AirPods with your MacBook, it doesn't automatically realize that the iPad is in sleep mode, but the Mac is running. This becomes a little bit of a tedious process because you would have to go into your settings and manually connect it like you're connecting it in the first place. This becomes tedious in the sense that sometimes they don't want to disconnect from the prior product that they're connected to. This could be fixed in Gen 2, or this could have been fixed with the AirPod Pros, but honestly, I'd look into that if that's something that would bother you as well. For me, it does bug me, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to go out of my way and spend over $200 again to replace this set. So in conclusion, over the last 3 years, like I said, I love my AirPods. The urge to upgrade to wireless headphones was there when I purchased them, but do I have the urge to upgrade to wireless headphones right now to a newer set? Nah. I know the price of $219 will scare away people to other competitors or even knockoffs, but as other Apple products, you pay for what you get, right? So if you want the product that will last longer, I'd say it's better to shell out the money right now in the initial investment than having to replace them multiple times. Thanks for tuning in, guys. If you liked the video, subscribe. Let me know in some comments how I can kind of improve myself, because I'm trying to just get into this tech review game. So, thanks for joining me. Stay tuned for the next one.